The night rain had soaked through the city like a warning, and Ethan Cole stood alone in his dark apartment holding a termination letter that felt heavier than his sleeping son in the next room. He had always believed that if he kept his head down, worked hard, and loved his child fiercely, life would eventually soften its grip. But that night, with the echo of his boss's fury still ringing in his ears and the knock that had shattered his routine replaying again and again in his mind, Ethan realized that sometimes life doesn't whisper before it roars. Before we go deeper into Ethan's story, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet strength. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this connect hearts across the world. Ethan Cole had not planned to become a single father at 29. Grief does not ask for permission, and fate does not wait until you feel ready. When his wife passed away suddenly, the world shrank to the size of a crib, a stack of unpaid bills, and a small boy named Noah who looked at him every morning as if Ethan were the entire universe. From that moment on, Ethan learned to live in fragments of sleep, rushing mornings, and long nights spent ironing tiny school shirts and reheating leftovers while pretending exhaustion was just another word for determination. He worked as a mid-level analyst at a marketing firm downtown, a place with glass walls, polished floors, and unspoken rules about ambition that left little room for vulnerability. Ethan was good at his job, maybe not brilliant in the way that demanded applause, but steady, reliable, and honest. He arrived early, left late, and never complained when his workload doubled because someone else had quit. His boss, Victoria Hale, was known throughout the company as a woman who valued excellence and despised excuses. She was sharp, ambitious, and intimidating in a way that made even senior executives straighten their posture when she walked by. What Ethan did not see, or perhaps refused to see, were the moments when her gaze lingered a second too long, when her voice softened just slightly around him, when meetings ran over time without reason other than her reluctance to end them. Ethan's world was too crowded with responsibility to notice hints. His mornings began before sunrise, packing lunches and braiding hair he had learned to manage through online videos. His evenings ended with homework battles, bedtime stories read through yawns, and quiet prayers whispered into the darkness. When Victoria suggested late meetings or after-work discussions, Ethan always declined politely, explaining that he needed to get home to his son. He assumed professionalism was enough. He assumed boundaries were clear. He assumed wrong pressure at work mounted as deadlines tightened and the company chased a lucrative client that could change everything. Ethan took on extra projects, often working through lunch, often skipping breaks, believing that effort would shield him from instability. Meanwhile, whispers floated through the office, subtle and sharp, about favoritism, about expectations, about what success really required. Ethan heard none of it, or if he did, he dismissed it as noise. His focus was singular: keep the job, keep the lights on, keep Noah safe. The day everything cracked open began like any other, with spilled cereal and a missed bus and a promise to make it up with pancakes on the weekend. At the office, tension hung thick as storm clouds. Victoria's patience had thinned, her expectations sharpened, and her disappointment had found a target. Ethan was called into her office late in the afternoon, the city skyline glowing behind her like a reminder of power and distance. He listened as criticism poured over him, accusations of disengagement, of lack of commitment, of missed opportunities that he did not even know existed. He stood there confused, apologetic, trying to explain his workload and his responsibilities without sounding like he was begging for sympathy. By the time Ethan returned to his desk, his hands were shaking. He finished his tasks mechanically, said his goodbyes, and rushed home to make dinner and help with a science project involving paper planets and glue that stuck to everything except where it was needed. For a few hours, the world felt manageable again. Then came the knock that IT was late, too late for neighbors, too sharp to be accidental. When Ethan opened the door, he found Victoria standing there, rain-soaked, eyes blazing with a mixture of anger and something far more dangerous. The hallway felt too small for the weight she carried with her. Words spilled out, harsh and unrestrained, accusations of rejection, of humiliation, of ingratitude. She told him that he had ignored every signal, every opening she had offered, that his refusal was an insult she would not tolerate. Then she delivered the blow that would echo in Ethan's life for months. He was fired, effective immediately, his career erased with the same ease as a signature on paper. When the door closed, Ethan leaned against it and slid to the floor, the silence roaring louder than any argument. Noah slept through it all, unaware that the fragile balance of their lives had just collapsed. Ethan did not sleep that night. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at bills, calculating time, wondering how long love could substitute for money. Shame crept in, uninvited and relentless, whispering that he should have seen it coming, that he should have played the game better. The weeks that followed were brutal. Job applications vanished into digital voids. Savings evaporated under the weight of rent and groceries. Ethan sold his car and walked miles to interviews that ended with polite smiles and empty promises. He smiled for Noah, made a game out of cheap meals, turned worry into bedtime stories about brave explorers who never gave up. Inside, he was unraveling. What Ethan did not know was that his quiet integrity had not gone unnoticed by everyone. A former colleague, someone who had watched him shoulder impossible loads without complaint, reached out with an opportunity at a smaller firm that valued ethics over ego. The interview was humble, the office modest, but the respect was real. Ethan was honest about his situation, about being a single father, about needing balance more than prestige. For the first time in months, honesty felt like strength instead of risk. The new job did not pay as much, but it paid enough. More importantly, it gave Ethan room to breathe. He left work before sunset, cooked real meals again, and attended school events without checking his phone every 5 minutes. Slowly, the tension drained from his shoulders. Slowly, the future began to feel like something other than a threat. Months later, news surfaced quietly through professional circles. Victoria Hale's career had imploded under the weight of her own actions. Investigations, complaints, and consequences followed, proving that power without integrity eventually consumes itself. Ethan felt no triumph, only a quiet sense of closure. He had survived not because he played along, but because he refused to lose himself. One evening, as Ethan tucked Noah into bed, his son wrapped small arms around his neck and whispered gratitude in the simple language of a child who feels safe. In that moment, Ethan understood that being fired had not been the end. It had been a painful, necessary beginning. He had lost a job but gained a life defined by dignity, resilience, and love that did not require compromise. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and comment. Your engagement helps stories like this reach people who need hope during their darkest nights. Comment below if you believe that choosing integrity, even when it costs everything, is still the bravest choice a person can make. Ethan Cole never became famous, never made headlines, but every morning he woke up knowing that his son would grow up watching a man who chose character over convenience. And sometimes, that quiet victory is the most powerful ending of all.